Alright, so today is day 6 out of 21. I did not film an update yesterday or the day before. I just didn't really feel like I had the energy to do it, and I was feeling pretty good, but one thing I found with this fasting journey is I don't have a lot of extra energy for sort of daily things that I used to. And it's interesting because I feel really good. My energy has been amazing. For the first time ever, I have felt the feeling of mental clarity and sort of extra energy that people talk about during fasts. My other 16-day water fast that I mentioned in the other video that I filmed was not that at all. And I kept thinking, when am I gonna get this? And I felt horrible. And it was because I didn't have enough electrolytes, and I see that now. So my body wasn't getting the hydration it needed, and as a result, I was just suffering. So this time around, it's been really, really amazing to feel this clarity and this energy, but it's sort of a weird thing where even though I do have really great energy, it's also sort of focused. And I've been really bad about communicating with people. I sort of fell off the face of the earth this weekend. Typically, I'm more of a texter in terms of like if someone messages me, I'll respond and so on. And this weekend I just felt like it just wasn't part of my consciousness, like responding to people, and it wasn't like a mean thing or I didn't want to talk to them. It was just like I just think, okay, I need to reply, and then I just wouldn't. And so I've been a little bit out of touch. And in fact, I have replied. Like, I didn't just completely ignore people, but in general, I haven't really been reaching out to friends. And one of my best friends, he's been like, where are you? Why aren't you answering my calls? It's just been a little bit different. And so another thing I've noticed is I've been a little spacey. So if I lose my train of thought multiple times during this video, just be aware that it's been a frequent occurrence lately, and it just is what it is. I felt great, but there's definitely been some highs and lows, and it's been an interesting process emotionally because especially the first few days, I want to say day 2 or 3, I was feeling pretty emotional. I had woken up early and I went to go run some errands, and it was interesting because a sad song came on my playlist and I found myself reminiscing on past events and just feeling like heartbroken. And it was weird for me because I tend to see myself as someone who's pretty rational and pretty emotionally controlled. Like, it was kind of interesting for me to really like feel some of those things more intensely than I normally would. And I think that fasting can make you very in tune with what you're feeling, and it can be really high and elevated thoughts, or it can be sort of negative dark things, and I don't really see it as a bad thing. In fact, I see it as a good thing. Buddhism and multiple books I've read and just sort of varying philosophies, it's like the concept of pain and hardship and struggle being part of life, and that being part of the beauty of it is brought up. And I think it's so true that life is not just about happiness and joy, it's also about overcoming struggle and working hard and feeling things and processing them, and then finding beauty as you come through and you emerge. And I know for me, I have definitely had some pretty difficult experiences in my life. I didn't really have a lot of guidance, and when it came to certain things, and I had to figure a lot of things out, and it was hard. But I can genuinely say that some of the toughest struggles where I felt humiliated and lost and insecure, and I pushed through them, have empowered me so much. If I could get through some of the really tough things that I did, like death and growing up in poverty and, figuring out my education and things like that, then hey, I can do this. I'm staying hydrated enough through the electrolyte water, so there will be dips in my energy, but I know that I can push through them, and then I come out feeling even better. So far it's been really a great experience. And so some tips that came to mind that may not apply to you if you're fasting, but definitely do to me, are: 1, I know some people really enjoy looking at food during their fast and sort of vicariously get pleasure from it. I don't. It's really not helpful for me to look at food, and I did that before during different cleanses and fasts that I've done, and it was like a terrible idea. It made me fixate on food and get in that mindset of thinking about food a lot. And for me this time around, I want nothing. Alright, so I got a phone call and I was cut off in the middle of what I was saying, but basically it's not helpful for me to look at food at all. So for me, that's a definite tip. Focus on other things. And personally, I've benefited a lot from, well, I already listen to audiobooks and podcasts, but I think just watching something or reading or learning something or doing something else to occupy your mind is really helpful. And I have found it really beneficial to stay clear of food thoughts. I've looked at a couple keto meal inspiration things, but I have not been watching people eat. I haven't been really fixating on like any food videos. In fact, I haven't been letting myself watch any food videos. Been there, done that. It doesn't help me personally. I think it's way better to just not be focused on food. And that leads me into tip 2. If there are people in your life who do not support you, who do not encourage you, who continuously are cooking food, have food around, will encourage you to eat food, stay clear of them if possible. I know some people probably live with parents or they live at home and have roommates and don't have a choice, but what I have found very beneficial is either being by myself or only being around people who respect the journey and will be there for it and not try to sabotage it, because I think it's super important to just keep yourself in a good mindset, and the people you're around make a big impact, and I believe that in general. I think that the friends you choose to keep and the company you keep will influence you no matter what. So I try to be selective and careful with who I surround myself in, and not in a judgmental way, but just in a, hey, I have one life to live, and to be around good people who have good hearts or not. And not to say that, okay, if somebody doesn't support a fast, they are bad people, because of course that's not the case, but it is really helpful for me to be around those who support me. I've been like holding up in my room after work, or going to the gym and walking, and just kind of keeping myself in a clear mental space, because I need that support. I know that, or not necessarily support at all times, but I need that clarity, and not having people come in. I don't talk to a lot of people about the things that I do, but there's definitely been a couple of people who are naysayers and like, oh, this is a bad idea, and blah blah blah, and like I'm just whatever. Like, they're not educating themselves on it, they're not even doing their research, and they're criticizing it, and I just don't have energy or time or tolerance for it. My tolerance level has kind of been down. I think in a lot of ways I felt super positive and really happy, and not in a lot of ways, I do feel super positive, and I felt really, really good in between the lower parts, but even the lower parts have been good too, because it feels like a really healing journey for me. My last thing is, I think fasting can be a really, really good time to self-reflect and open your mind and meditate and pray or do whatever you need to do, and just sort of try to recognize maybe things that you're defensive about, or things in your life that you need to work on, or that make you feel uncomfortable, because I think a lot of the time the things that make us feel uncomfortable are things we need to work on. And an example of that is the other day someone made a comment to me, and it related to something that I didn't really realize at the time I was insecure about, but I responded so strongly, and I went on this like rant about me and blah blah blah, and afterwards I felt so gross, because I just went on this ego trip, and it just hit me, and I was like, wow, I'm really defensive. This obviously is an area of my life I don't feel very secure about within myself, because I wouldn't be acting like that and puffing myself up. I think humility is huge. One of my friends quoted a Bible verse that just talks about pride, and how pride comes before fall, and I truly believe in treat others how you want to be treated, and I think it's very important in life to have an open heart and to treat others well. A favorite quote of mine is, character is how you treat those who can do nothing for you, because I can't even explain how many times I've seen people who treat people so differently based on whether or not they have status and money versus if they don't, and that is one of the first things that will make me just completely stay clear of someone. And speaking of the low tolerance, something I had an encounter today with someone who I sort of had briefly studied up on, not intensively, but just stumbled across a couple of things, and it's like a fitness, diet, whatever thing. And I made a comment and I was like, hey, keep up the good work, good. So they responded back and they started going on, and I said, oh yeah, I'm doing this fast. They sort of went on this rant about how, you know, it was almost kind of critical of it. And I said, hey, well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's my stance. And this person's a proponent of fasting, so I was kind of surprised that they had said that. And I'm not gonna like name who it is. So I responded back and I was like, hey, well, this is where I'm at, blah blah blah. Well, do you know, so after hearing that, you know, sort of my guidelines, my trajectory, what I'm wanting, do you think that's a good plan? And I wasn't looking for advice, whatever, it was just like a response to what they had said. And keep in mind, this person doesn't know what I look like. They don't know who I am. They don't know anything about me. They don't know how much I weigh. They don't know where I'm coming from. They don't know how old I am. They know nothing. And they basically said that they would expect me to share my journey, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, you know, that's, and that they don't give out advice. I was like, okay, dude, cool, like, whatever. And I said, well, and also, I am a pretty private person. I just don't feel the need to do that. Like, thanks, but no thanks. They came back at me, and it was so egotistical, in my opinion, and rude, and just unkind, like me. That's the problem with people. They're fat and disgusting from ruining their body after all this time, and until they can face the fact that they're like they are because of their choices, they'll never change. No. And I'm like, you know, dude, you don't know what kind of job I work. Who's to say I can't have pictures of my before and after? I shouldn't even be putting time and energy into it, but it was like, part of me wanted to be like, get over yourself. I didn't want your advice. I was saying something supportive and kind. Telling me that I'm, you know, fat and disgusting because I care too much what people think. It's like, you don't know me. You don't know how much I weigh. You don't know where I'm coming from. Like, I just wanted to be like petty and send the Bible verse about humility. But the thing is like everybody, you know, there's always, people get these inflated senses of self, and it's like, grand scheme of things, you look at this earth, we're just little beings, and we're all just coming from different places, and being humble, I think, is really important. And I also, while I was thinking about this individual and being like, wow, you kind of need to get over yourself because your attitude stinks, you're rude, you don't know me, and you think you're God's gift to the world, but you're actually just a pretty unkind individual. It also reminded me of my little ego trip the other day, and it was like, okay, reminder, stay humble, keep learning, keep growing. So I'm gonna do an update in a couple days, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, but I will update, and I'm gonna keep going on this journey. If anyone else is watching this who's doing a fast, best of luck to you. Blessings to anyone who sees this, and I'm done.